The rooftop was alive with the hum of Seattle's skyline, but all I could hear was the thud of my own heart. Marcus, the guy who'd been a stranger just hours ago, stood inches away, his breath visible in the cool October air. I didn't expect to be here, not with him, not like this, not after everything I'd sworn to leave behind. My name's Javier Torres, 25, a graphic designer scraping by in a city that felt too big for my small-town roots. I'd moved to Seattle from a dusty New Mexico village, chasing a life where I could be myself, unapologetically queer, unapologetically me. But the city didn't hand out dreams like I'd hoped. I was drowning in freelance gigs, late rent, and a nagging fear that I'd never belong. That night, I'd gone to the Rusty Anchor, a queer bar tucked in Capitol Hill, to drown my doubts in cheap beer. I wasn't looking for anyone. I wasn't looking for him. Marcus Jackson, 27, was all charisma. 6 feet of confidence with a smile that could stop traffic. His short dreadlocks framed a face that held stories I couldn't read yet, and his voice, smooth as bourbon, carried a hint of George's warmth. He slid into the bar stool next to mine, ordered a whiskey neat, and asked if I'd share my fries. "Bold move," I said, pushing the basket toward him. He grinned, and something in me shifted, like a door I'd locked years ago creaked open. We talked for hours, the bar's neon glow blurring into the background. He was a social worker, he said, helping at-risk teens find their way. His passion was infectious, his laugh a melody I didn't know I needed. But I kept my guard up. I'd been burned before, by guys who promised forever, then ghosted when things got real. My ex, Ryan, had left scars deeper than I'd admit, and I wasn't ready to let anyone in again. Not yet. Marcus leaned closer, his shoulder brushing mine. "You ever feel like you're running from something, but you don't know what?" he asked, his eyes searching mine. I froze. It was like he'd seen through every wall I'd built. I nodded, unable to speak, and he whispered, "Me too." Those 2 words hit like a lightning bolt, rewriting the air between us. Suddenly, this wasn't just a bar chat. It was something else, something dangerous, something alive. The night stretched on, and we spilled onto the streets, wandering through Capitol Hill's electric pulse. Marcus told me about growing up in Atlanta, where being black and queer meant learning to navigate a world that didn't always want you. I shared snippets of my own story, my conservative family, the church that called my identity a sin, the courage it took to leave. We were strangers, yet every word felt like a confession, each step a dare to trust. By the time we reached his friend's rooftop, the city sprawling below, I was dizzy, not from the beer, but from him. He stood close, his hand grazing mine, and I felt the weight of possibility. "Javier," he said softly, his voice barely above the wind. "What if we stopped running?" My breath caught. I didn't know if he meant from our pasts, our fears, or something bigger. All I knew was that his question hung between us, fragile and heavy, demanding an answer I wasn't sure I could give. We sat on a weathered bench, the city's lights painting us in gold and shadow. Marcus's knee pressed against mine, a quiet anchor in the chaos of my thoughts. I wanted to lean into him, to let go of the fear that had kept me guarded for so long. But doubt gnawed at me. Could I trust this feeling? Could I trust him? I'd learned the hard way that love could be a trap, a fleeting high that left you broken. Yet, as Marcus's eyes met mine, warm and steady, I wondered if maybe, just maybe, this was different. The rooftop moment lingered, a snapshot of something raw and unspoken. We didn't kiss, didn't need to. His presence was enough. A promise, a question, a challenge. I didn't know where this would lead, but for the first time in years, I wanted to find out. As we left the rooftop, his hand brushed mine again, and I let it linger, just for a second, before the world pulled us back into its orbit. The next morning, I woke with Marcus's question echoing in my head. What if we stopped running? It was Sunday, and Seattle's gray skies mirrored my uncertainty. I sat in my cramped apartment, sketching aimlessly, trying to make sense of the night before. My phone buzzed, a text from Marcus. Coffee? I know a spot. My heart did a stupid flip, but I hesitated. Was I ready for this, whatever this was? We met at a cozy cafe in Fremont, its walls lined with mismatched art. Marcus was already there, sipping an espresso, his smile as disarming as ever. You look like you didn't sleep, he teased, and I laughed, admitting I'd spent the night replaying our conversation. He leaned forward, elbows on the table, and said, Good. I wasn't sure you'd show up. His honesty caught me off guard, and I felt that door inside me creak open a little more. Over coffee, we dove deeper. Marcus shared how he'd lost his brother to addiction, how it drove him to help others find their way. I told him about my art, how it was my lifeline when words failed. The cafe faded away, and it was just us, two souls bearing their jagged edges. But when he asked about my past relationships, I clammed up. Ryan's betrayal, his promises, his lies, his sudden disappearance, still stung. I mumbled something vague, and Marcus didn't push, but his eyes held a quiet understanding that made me ache. Days turned into weeks, and Marcus became a constant in my life. We'd meet for late-night tacos, wander Pike Place Market, or just sit in his tiny apartment, listening to jazz and debating everything from politics to pizza toppings. Each moment felt like a brushstroke, painting something new between us. But fear lingered. Every time Marcus's hand lingered on mine, every time his gaze held mine too long, I heard Ryan's voice in my head. You're too much, Javi. Too intense. I couldn't shake the fear that Marcus would see it too, that I'd scare him away. One night, at a drag show in a packed Belltown club, the tension broke. The queens were electric, the crowd alive with cheers, but all I could focus on was Marcus, his laughter lighting up the dark. After the show, we stepped outside, the air sharp with winter's edge. He pulled me into a quiet alley, his breath visible as he said, Javier, I'm all in. Are you? His words were a dare, a plea, and I wanted to say yes, but fear choked me. Instead, I kissed him hard, desperate, like I could pour all my doubts into that moment. He kissed me back, steady and sure, and for a second, I believed I could let go. But the next day, reality crashed in. My landlord left a voicemail. Pay the overdue rent or face eviction. My freelance gigs were drying up, and the weight of it all pressed down. I pulled away from Marcus, ignoring his texts, dodging his calls. I told myself it was for the best. He deserved someone stable, someone whole. But every night, alone in my apartment, I felt the ache of his absence, like a color missing from my palette. A week later, Marcus showed up at my door, unannounced, his eyes fierce. You don't get to ghost me, Javier, he said, stepping inside. Talk to me. I tried to brush it off, but he wouldn't let me. He sat on my sagging couch, waiting, and I finally cracked. I told him about Ryan, about the fear that I'd ruin us, about the mess of my life. Marcus listened, his hand steady on my knee, and when I finished, he said, I'm not him, and you're not a mess. You're a masterpiece. His words broke something in me, and I let him pull me close, his warmth a lifeline in the storm. Marcus's words stayed with me, but they didn't erase my doubts. We were falling hard, and it scared me. Seattle's winter deepened, blanketing the city in mist and chill, and our relationship felt like a fragile flame in the cold. We spent more time together, cooking dinners in his cramped kitchen, stealing kisses in bookstore aisles, but every step closer brought new fears. What if I wasn't enough? What if he saw the cracks I tried so hard to hide? One evening, Marcus invited me to a community center where he volunteered. The place buzzed with teens, queer kids, runaways, dreamers, each carrying their own weight. Marcus moved among them with ease, offering advice, cracking jokes, making them feel seen. I watched, awestruck, as he helped a shy kid named Eli sketch a comic. "You've got talent," Marcus told him, and Eli's face lit up. I realized then how much Marcus gave to others, how much he carried. It made me love him more, and fear losing him even more. That night, over takeout in his apartment, I asked, "How do you do it?" "Give so much without breaking." He shrugged, his eyes distant. "I break sometimes," he admitted. "But these kids, they need someone who shows up. So I do." He paused, then added, "I want to show up for you too, Javi, if you'll let me." His vulnerability hit me hard, and I reached for his hand, intertwining our fingers. For the first time, I felt like maybe I could be enough. But life doesn't pause for love. My financial troubles worsened, and I took a soul-crushing job at a call center to make ends meet. The long hours left me drained, and I started pulling away again, snapping at Marcus over small things. He was patient, too patient, and it only made me feel worse. One night, after a grueling shift, I found him waiting outside my apartment, holding a bag of my favorite tacos. "You're not doing this alone," he said, his voice firm. I wanted to argue, but his steadiness disarmed me. We ate in silence, his presence a quiet promise that he wasn't giving up. Then came the call that changed everything. Marcus's mentor, Miss Clara, a fierce advocate for queer youth, was hosting a gala to fund the community center. Marcus wanted me to come, to meet the people who mattered to him. I hesitated, fancy events weren't my scene, and I felt like an imposter in his world. But his eyes, warm and pleading, convinced me. The gala was in a sleek downtown venue, all chandeliers and polished floors. I wore my best jacket, still feeling out of place, but Marcus's hand on my back grounded me. At the gala, I saw a new side of Marcus. Polished, passionate, speaking to donors with a fire that made my chest swell. But as the night wore on, I overheard a conversation that shook me. Two donors, older men in sharp suits, were talking about Marcus. "He's brilliant, but too idealistic," one said. "He'll burn out like all the others." The words hit like a punch. I looked at Marcus, laughing across the room, and wondered if they were right. Was I just another weight pulling him down? The gala left me rattled, but Marcus seemed oblivious to the doubts swirling in my head. He pulled me onto the dance floor, his hands warm on my waist, and for a moment, I forgot everything else. We swayed to a slow jazz tune, the world narrowing to just us. "You're doing that thing again," he whispered, his lips brushing my ear. "Overthinking." I laughed, but it was hollow. I wanted to tell him about the donor's words, about my fear of dragging him down, but I couldn't find the courage. The next few weeks were a blur of tension. My call center job was a grind, and Marcus was swamped with work at the community center. We still found moments, late-night walks along the waterfront, stolen kisses in his car, but the weight of our unspoken fears grew heavier. I started noticing things. The tired lines around Marcus's eyes, the way he deflected when I asked about his stress. I wondered if he was hiding something, or if I was just projecting my own insecurities. One rainy afternoon, I got a text from Eli, the kid from the community center. "Marcus needs you. Come quick." My stomach dropped. I raced to the center, my mind spinning with worst-case scenarios. When I arrived, I found Marcus in the art room, surrounded by crumpled sketches, his face drawn. Eli hovered nearby, worried. "He's been like this all day," Eli whispered. "Won't talk." I knelt beside Marcus, my heart pounding. "What's going on?" I asked softly. He didn't meet my eyes, just handed me a letter. It was from the community center's board, threatening to cut funding unless they met an impossible fundraising goal. Marcus had been carrying this alone, trying to protect everyone, me included. "I can't fail them," he said, his voice breaking. "These kids, they're my family." I pulled him into my arms, feeling his weight against me. "You're not failing anyone," I said fiercely. "And you're not doing this alone." For once, I was the steady one, and it felt right. We spent the night brainstorming ideas to save the center. Art auctions, community events, anything to keep it alive. As we worked, I saw Marcus's spark return, and I realized how much he needed me to show up, just as I needed him. But the pressure didn't let up. My job was killing me, and Marcus's fight for the center consumed him. We started arguing small, stupid fights that masked bigger fears. One night, after a particularly bad day, I snapped. "Maybe we're not good for each other," I said, the words spilling out before I could stop them. Marcus's face fell, and for a moment, I thought I'd broken us. He stepped closer, his voice low. "Don't say that, Javi. Not unless you mean it." I didn't, but the fear in my chest wouldn't let me back down. We stood there, inches apart, the rain pounding outside. I wanted to fix it, to take it all back, but I didn't know how. Marcus reached for my hand, his touch tentative. "We're worth fighting for," he said. "Aren't we?" His words cut through my defenses, and I nodded, tears stinging my eyes. We held each other, the storm outside mirroring the one within, but in that moment, I knew I wasn't ready to let him go. The fight shook us, but it also woke us up. Marcus and I made a pact. No more hiding, no more running. We threw ourselves into saving the community center, working side by side with Eli and the other kids. I used my design skills to create flyers and a crowdfunding page, while Marcus rallied the community. It was grueling, but seeing him fight for something he loved made me fall harder. He wasn't just saving the center, he was showing me what it meant to show up, no matter the odds. One night, we hosted an art auction at the center. The room was packed with locals, queer elders, and even some of the gala donors. My artwork, a vibrant mural of queer joy, hung on the wall, and Marcus's speech about the center's mission brought tears to my eyes. We raised enough to keep the doors open, and as the crowd cheered, Marcus pulled me into a hug, whispering, "We did it, Javi." I felt his heart beating against mine, and for the first time, I believed we could face anything together. But life doesn't tie up neatly. My call center job fell through, and I was back to freelancing, scraping by. Marcus's work at the center was secure, but the stress had taken a toll. We were stronger, but not invincible. One evening, on the same rooftop where it all began, Marcus took my hand. "I love you," he said, his voice steady despite the tremble in his hands. "And I'm scared, but I want us for the long haul." I froze, the weight of his words sinking in. Love was a word I'd avoided, a word that had burned me before. But looking into Marcus's eyes, I saw a future I hadn't dared imagine. One where we built a life together, flaws and all. "I love you too," I said, my voice breaking. We kissed under the city lights, the moment raw and real, a promise etched in starlight. Months later, we were still navigating the mess of life. My hustle, his mission, our fears. But we faced it together. The community center thrived, and I found new clients, my art gaining traction. Marcus and I moved into a tiny apartment, our lives tangled in the best way. We weren't perfect, but we were honest, and that was enough. The rooftop remained our sanctuary, a place to return when the world felt too heavy. One night, as we sat there, Marcus carved our initials into that weathered bench, right beside the words we'd seen that first night. Love dares to rewrite our story. It was true. We'd rewritten ours. Not with grand gestures, but with small, brave choices to stay, to fight, to love. And as I leaned against him, the city humming below. I knew we'd keep writing, one moment at a time.